Oh, God, Clipper Nation. That was by far the most brutal game I attended this year. I don't think there's much to say right now. Let's talk about it on today's Locked On Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You are locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA and in my 19th season as a Clipper fan. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod and subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more LA Clipper content. A video of my experience at that game on Wednesday night will be out on the channel, and you will not want to miss it. It was a crazy kind of atmosphere. It was the last ever hallway series game, and it did not end pretty for us. And before we get into that, this episode is brought to you by Grammarly. That's Grammarly.com/podcast to sign up and download for free. All right, let's talk about this game. Oh my God. Where do I even begin? A collapse like we haven't seen this season, but as fans, we're very familiar with as Clipper fans. I mean, this was the biggest fourth quarter comeback, apparently, of LeBron James's career, they said. We got outscored 39-16 in the fourth quarter. 39-16. I mean, are you kidding me? And you know what it felt like in the third quarter? Because through the first half, I thought it was our best half since the All-Star break. Our defense was sharp. We were creating some turnovers, taking advantage, keeping the Lakers out of the paint. Had AD pick up his second foul early in the game. And we were just getting them to shoot jump shots. And while LeBron was making some jump shots in the first half, I was very comfortable with the type of shots the Lakers were getting. Because remember, they're not a very good three-point shooting team. But the Clippers are. However, we couldn't make our threes. And that's the only reason why I felt like, and I kept turning around and telling some of the people sitting around with me in Section 207. By the way, as far as the fan atmosphere thing, I think it was a very good atmosphere. I would say it was about, and some Clipper fans thought it was more Clipper fans than I thought there were. I thought it was about 60% Laker fans max, maybe 65. Obviously, they were louder at the end and you could really hear them, but at most 65%. But some Clipper fans were telling me they thought it was 50-50. I thought there was a little bit more Laker fans, but it wasn't as bad as in 2022, where legitimately I thought it was 70-30. And we won that game against them in 2022. That was like in April. Reggie Jackson went off. But it was really disappointing to watch that lead evaporate like that and have to hear the Laker fans, celebrate. And, I did not. Thankfully, I was sitting in an all-Clipper fan section, and I got out of that building quick. But they were not as obnoxious around me where I was as they could have potentially been or have been in the past. Because, oh, man, thank God I was sitting in 207. Because if I were sitting amongst other sections, which it was 50-50 or not, probably slightly more Laker fans in each section, I would have lost my marbles. That's why I stopped going to Laker Clipper games for 13 years. It's painful enough seeing them lose to the Lakers just because I have to hear about it from my friends, and hear about it in the city that I live. But when you're at the game hearing the loudness of them, not like they're super, super loud, but any contingent of fans that brings 50% of the stadium is going to be louder than normal when you're the home team. So it's very frustrating, and we beat the Warriors twice at Staples Center this year, but to lose to them, it was in that fashion. I mean, we had a 19-point lead going into the fourth quarter of this game. We had a 21-point lead at one point. The only and I knew when we kept missing those big threes that could have put us up by 20 or 22 in the third quarter, and it stayed at like, the lead stayed at like 17-16. I knew that's all they needed to hang around and go from it being, okay, we're up by 23-24, Ham's looking to wave the white flag in the fourth quarter, to, oh, it's still within 14-13. If the Lakers make one push and get this crowd going, then maybe the tide can turn. If the Clippers, without Paul George, without Zoo, don't have the firepower to bring it home against momentum. And that's exactly what happened. We kept missing our open threes, mainly Norman Powell, who I thought in the first three quarters actually held his own defensively. And I thought the entire team in the first three quarters was pretty good defensively. We were doing enough to get the job done in convincing fashion without Paul and Zoo, who, by the way, was out with an illness, not an injury. So we need Zoo back very quickly. But 39-16 in the fourth. The 16 is the most telling statistic. Obviously, 39 is way too much, but sometimes the best defense is offense. And when you are missing shots and are cross-matched in transition, and the other team is bringing the ball up with a little bit more momentum because they just got to stop, you're feeling a little bit demoralized because you just bricked. These all factor into a game with human emotions and humans involved, and momentum is real. And one thing that really hurt the momentum in the start of that fourth quarter? Ty Lue, I don't understand what the sympathy is for PJ Tucker. For anybody that's still trying to play devil's advocate for him, I don't know how you can. He's bringing nothing to the table. All he did in this game positively, in my opinion, was he contested one jump shot nicely and forced someone to take an outside shot, and then he boxed AD out nicely for a rebound. And by the way, even when he did that, I'm pretty sure that was the same possession where he turned the ball over, just passing it up the court, and AD had a layup. So besides that, he's not respected out there offensively. Defensively, he's nowhere near what he once was. I wouldn't even call him a very good defender anymore. And this was the most appalling part of all. You're out, you gotta shoot the ball. If you can't dribble or create, you have to shoot your open shots. He gets the ball in the left corner, and he does not look at the basket. And he wants to throw a fit about he needs to be playing minutes on a contending team. Again, I want to say this is not personal with PJ Tucker. I love the guy because he was really nice to my family 11 years ago when I met him. But he had a donut again. He literally has more donuts than Krispy Kreme. Maybe the entire chain of Krispy Kreme at this point. It's insanity. And what really pisses me off is that Ty Lue, it wasn't just about PJ, Mason, and Russ at the same time again. We saw against Memphis how bad it was, and you want to do it against the Lakers? I know Zubats is out. There is no circumstance in which that should be happening. Let me just say this. Amir Coffey had his best game after the All-Star break in this one. He was in a little bit of a slump. He started and was part of the reason we were winning. He was a +9 in his 25 minutes, had 8 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals. And even though he was 33% from 3, which isn't great, he was 2 for 6, and we made 10 threes as a team. So he literally made 20% of our threes. He was 3 for 8 from the field, but the thing is, I don't think his stat line fully does him justice because I thought his one-on-one defense was much more like what it was pre-All-Star break, and we only played him 25 minutes without Paul George and Zoo. What's going on there? Very frustrating, but Norman Powell, he got chance after chance to put the Lakers away, and he didn't. And then LeBron just got really, really hot. And sometimes he has these games where he gets really hot from 3. And the thing was, he wasn't even going to the basket that much. He had a couple of those lefty floaters going to his, right-handed floaters going to his left that he's gotten so much better at over the last 7-8 years. But he was largely just taking jump shots. And here's the thing about LeBron. I know his game better than any basketball player that's ever played. Meaning, I know his game better than any basketball player that I've ever watched, right? And he always, when he hits a 3, he'll try to hit another one and see how hot he can get. And when he hits that second one, he'll always go for the third one. But he'll make the 2 in a row a good amount. But when he makes that 3 in a row, that's when he's really feeling himself. And LeBron, even when he was not as great of a shooter in his early Cleveland days, one thing he was a streaky shooter. And like Game 5 against Detroit in 2007 is a perfect example of when he just got scorching. And in this game, he wasn't getting to the rim like 2007 Bron. He was just making threes over and over. But let me tell you what we did to make it easy for him. Okay, Ty Lue was switching a lot all game, right? But we were just switching anybody onto LeBron in the fourth quarter, whether it be Norm, Harden, or Tice. So basically, LeBron had his pick of the litter of who he wanted. Kawhi would start on him, but and by the way, what pisses me off the most is some of these were not even very good screens. They were very soft, like brush screens, sometimes even off-ball little flares that we did not have to switch, and we just did. And I've called that out before this game, that we switched too lazily, and it's a lack of pride, in my opinion. It's lazy defense when you switch every single little screen, even when it's not a good screen that's being set. And that's one of the reasons why I think Minnesota is the best defensive team in the NBA by a lot, because they don't just switch unless you set a real screen and make contact. So us letting Daniel Tice repeatedly switch on LeBron when he's hitting everything and not adjusting, while Darvin Ham, who's been criticized like crazy this season, is blitzing James Harden in the second half, because in the second quarter, James Harden ripped the Lakers apart in pick and roll in that high drop. Now they blitz James Harden, and we're getting the ball to Mason Plumlee in the short roll, and he had 2 huge turnovers that completely altered the momentum of this fourth quarter. First, he was doing what we've called this out from last season. Sometimes he thinks he's Magic Plumlee. He literally will bring up the ball. Like, he looked James Harden off and brought up the ball and then got poked from behind because we did not have numbers. Shocking. I mean, that was a ridiculous decision. And then he makes a bad read in the short roll and we get penalized off of it. So I got to give LeBron credit. I also got to give Rui Hachimura and D'Angelo Russell credit for the big shots that they hit late. But we were legitimately just letting LeBron attack who he wanted, and we didn't change anything about it. Actually, no, we did at the very end where we let it happen, and then we sent the double. But in my opinion, what should have happened was we shouldn't have had Kawhi switch off of him, because LeBron wasn't switching off of Kawhi on the other end, and he's in year 21. Kawhi Leonard's supposed to be one of the best defenders in the NBA. But when Kawhi was given this reputation that he rightfully earned in his days with San Antonio, it was not because he was a great backside defender for help. It was because he was one of the best on-ball, one-on-one defenders of his era. And while he's not that anymore, he's still pretty damn good. And it took till Game 6 against the Mavericks for him to not switch screens like that. And we didn't do it again in this one. And you can blame Ty Lue all you want. But you know what? Sometimes when you talk about great players in NBA history and in the NBA where the players have a ton of power, he's got to say, no, I'm not switching, coach, because look what's happening. And here's the thing about Ty and the coaching staff. They are not going to, with Kawhi Leonard's injury history, make it so that he works that hard on defense and he has to create on offense without Paul George. In my opinion, they're not going to suggest it for him with the minutes that he's playing. The only way it can happen is if he demands it to happen. And for everyone to think, well, he's going to go against the scheme. This is not first grade, like elementary school. What are they going to say to Kawhi? No? Okay, they say no. But you know how Kawhi is. He's quiet. He's not going to say these things until I guess it's really, really desperate. But that's a problem. And then on the other side, he wanted no part of LeBron till the last minute of the game in that fourth quarter. Let's call a spade a spade. We're going to be talking about the lack of killer instinct this team showed coming up. I got to tell you a little something about eBay Motors. Our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Basketball host Josh Lloyd to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week all season long. Whether you're prepping for a daily draft or scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to provide you players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. So let's see who Josh has picked out for us on this week's eBay Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. I'm going to go with DeAndre Hunter. And it's because Trae Young got hurt. And he's shooting well, so the touches and the frequency that he's going to be shooting the ball is going to be up massively. So I'm going with DeAndre Hunter. I suggest you do as well. Josh Lloyd from Locked On Fantasy Basketball is going to help you win your fantasy championship. And eBay Motors knows a championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. Same with your vehicle. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. brake kits, LED headlights, roof rack, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. All right, Clipper Nation, back here after the Lakers beat the Clippers 116-112. They won the season series 3-1. Oh, man, that's the first season series the Lakers have beaten us since 2012, I think, when they beat us 2-1. It's really been that long, and it doesn't feel good. Obviously, we didn't have Paul George and Zubats in this one. They didn't have LeBron in the last one, and then we didn't have James Harden after we had made the trade in the first one. The one game that both sides were pretty much fully healthy, Clippers lost by 3 points. So, again, as I mentioned several times, I don't like the matchup with them this year. They're just a little too big. And here's the thing, right? So, let's go back to what I was ending off on in the last segment. Kawhi Leonard in the fourth quarter. Kawhi has not been a great closer as a Clipper. Let's just keep it a buck. He has had his fair share of game winners here and there. The one against Charlotte last year comes to mind. He was clutch against Dallas in Game 6. But so many times we've had chances for him to close the game, and he's short on his jump shot. He actually played well in the sense that I think he scored 2 straight baskets in the last minute to cut it down to 2. And he got a pretty clean look on that jump shot going to his right at the end that he missed short. But again, missed short. Lakers got the rebound. Cam Reddish got that breakaway dunk that sealed the game. But I've talked about it on this show for 2 years. I trust Paul George more on that last shot because it feels like he has more legs at the end of games. And his long distance ability gives him a better chance, and his height to get him clean looks. But I don't mind us going to Kawhi there because he had just made 2 buckets. So I have no problem with that. My biggest thing with Kawhi is we saw that James Harden was getting blitzed. Everybody could see that. They were forcing the ball out of James's hands. And at that point, Russ isn't going to be in the game. And that we'll talk about that in a second. But things got to run through Kawhi. And Kawhi was getting double-teamed throughout the game, as was at times we were doubling LeBron in the first half. Then we went completely away from it for whatever reason. And Kawhi, at times we tried to put the guards in the action in the fourth quarter, and they were hedging and recovering. So on the Lakers side, they were not switching that. They were not switching LeBron off of Kawhi, right? When we were putting the guards in the action, they were doing a pretty good job showing and recovering, but Kawhi's not releasing the ball fast enough. He's not hitting Terrence or anybody on the short roll. He's not trying to turn the corner. And in the fourth quarter, Harden and Kawhi had multiple possessions where they took 14 seconds off the shot clock, or at least 10, and we didn't get anything going. No move was made. And I knew when those possessions were happening when I was at the game that that possession was going to result in a tough shot, a bad shot, or a turnover. The way we got locked up, the way the Lakers just turned up the defensive intensity and were able to do that to us was really disappointing. And in the last game when we almost blew the lead as well, they did the same thing in the second half. Very disappointing. You got to bury these kind of teams. It feels like a lack of killer instinct. It really does. And Kawhi Leonard, I'm not trying to pile on him. I'm just starting with him. You are supposed to be one of the best two-way players in the world. We're switching way too easily. Ty Lue, I just blamed him for PJ Tucker, the lineups, that scheme. At the end of the day, I'm only blaming Kawhi because I think Ty won't do it. And he should, but I get why he won't because of, you don't want to burn Kawhi out so much, right? You want to take away LeBron's pick and roll advantage. Because my alternative would be hedging and recovering or then blitzing Bron. In that case, your rotations have to be sharp on AD, but you're already disadvantaged in the sense that LeBron's putting your big in the action. So your big is out of the paint, and Kawhi is out of the paint, and we don't have Paul George. So who's your backside rim protection? Terrence, Amir against AD? The best bet you can do is crowd AD with 2 guys and make him swing to the corners, which kind of happened towards the end. And I believe Reeves missed 1, but then Rui made another. But that was on the LeBron double team, if I'm not mistaken, where Rui hit a 3. But it's like you just got to get the ball out of LeBron's hands at this point because he's scorching hot. So I have a big problem with that. And then the offensive side of things where Kawhi wasn't going for the ball, I literally saw him in real time in front of my own eyes pass the ball, and the whole team was looking at giving the ball back to Kawhi, and he pointed and basically was like, nah, run your, you go one-on-one, give it a Norm. He was actively, and this is not the first time this season, he's actively gone away from the matchup against LeBron. And the reason why is because it exposes Kawhi's few weaknesses right now, and that is that he does not get the step on guys. I've been saying it all year, and the one time I saw him really beat a guy from the top of the key, and I called it out and banged the point home, was against Derrick Jones Jr. in that Dallas game in Dallas. But other than that, it's all off a pump fake, or he's getting the ball swung to him, or he catches the ball mid-range area and blows by because he's already closer to the basket, so the defender is pressing up against him. But when he's at the three-point line, top of the key like that, he doesn't turn the corner very fast on screens, and two, he does not blow by. And how else does he create his shots? His amazing skill and his strength. But he's not going to be able to out-muscle LeBron. And LeBron's very disciplined at not falling for pump fakes. He always has been. So the way you get LeBron is you got to pull up on a dime, like Paul Pierce did in those last 3 games of the 08 series against them, and how Kobe sometimes used to do, and how Kawhi has done in the past. Because he's not going to go for the pump fake. He's very disciplined with that. So you got to pull up on him. Right? Go at him and then pull up. And Kawhi wasn't going to that really. And he did score a little bit on LeBron throughout the game, and it was mostly those jumpers, which again, as I said, he's got to take over him. But it wasn't enough in the fourth. When James Harden's getting blitzed, he has to create something. Russ is not in the game. And he was part of a bad stretch of minutes, but I actually think he brought some good things to the table. He was super active defensively, but again, 3 for 9 from the field, just not shooting well, missing some shots around the basket. But who are you going to take out? The alternative would be take out Norm and put in either Amir or Russ. Because the one thing I will say about Russ, he had 3 steals, he had 3 assists, he was positive in his minutes, 8 points in 17 minutes. He only shot 2 threes, so it wasn't OD. It's like the thing about Russ is you're so scared of what he can do wrong, but then you're also like, man, what if he could have gotten a huge stop or a huge interception or a big rebound or something, taking advantage of James Harden being blitzed in the short roll better than some of our other guys did. I don't know. It's just I don't think Russell Westbrook in this role is going to be maximized, because I think we're not going to go to him closing either, and he won't get many minutes throughout the game, so he's just got to maximize his minutes. And knowing the way Russ is, I think he's going to press too hard, and he's going to end up hurting us in a lot of games. And I hate to say that, but that's what it's looking like right now. It's not trending in the right direction for him. Coming up, though, going to talk about what now, just how big is this loss, and man, I still feel like I have so much more to say, but moral of the story to me, we lacked that killer instinct, and we didn't make huge shots when it counted. We needed to close the door. And then to let LeBron just do whatever he wanted, they made a defensive adjustment and we didn't. But granted, they were the ones losing. I just think Kawhi needed to be more assertive on both ends as well. We don't have Paul. I'm not making excuses for Kawhi. And then James Harden, I'm not going to leave him out of things. He was lethargic in the second half, just over-dribbling, losing the ball, turning the ball over on an inbound. Austin Reeves picked his pocket at half court, and he was missing threes, hesitating on wide open shots again. The thing is, I just don't trust James Harden in really big games. I just don't. I was made that very clear when we got him. I think he's been awesome for us, but I don't. Kawhi Leonard is the guy that when all else fails, I believe in him. So that's why I'm hard on him. It's only because I hold him to such a high standard. But coming up, let's talk about what now. How big is this loss? I'm obviously amped up right now because it's 1:23 in the morning and I just got back from a game. My voice is gone and I'm very mad. But big picture, let's calm down. Let's talk about it coming up. I got to tell you a little something about Grammarly. No matter what kind of work you do, how you communicate is key. All those emails, reports, and presentations are equally important to the collaboration needed to get things done, and Grammarly can help. Grammarly is your AI writing partner to help you communicate more effectively and efficiently so you can make a bigger impact at work. Grammarly helps professionals get more done. Save time with one click and go from editing drafts in hours to seconds. 93% of professionals using Grammarly Premium report that it helps them get more work done. Make a bigger impact at work with Grammarly. Sign up and download for free at Grammarly.com/podcast. That's GRAMMARLY.com/podcast. Easier said than done. All right, let's keep talking about this one. A 116-112 loss to the Lakers in the final hallway series game ever. The Clippers are now 37-20 on the season, 20-8 at home. This was the 20th game of the season that I attended, and we are 1-3 since the All-Star break. And our only win was a horrific performance against the Memphis Grizzlies, who were battered up. Now, a couple more details about this game. Reeves started out on James Harden, LeBron on Terrence Mann, Rui on Kawhi, AD on Tice, D'Lo on Amir. And then we started Amir on Braun, Zoo on AD, and then Terrence on Reeves. And there was a lot of switching throughout the game. And one thing I noticed the Lakers were trying to do early was push pace and have AD seal or Rui seal right around the basket because to take advantage of the fact that we didn't have Zoo. So push the pace, which the Lakers have been doing a little bit more the last couple of weeks since they went with Reeves and D'Lo in the starting lineup. And take advantage of that lack of size. So, nope. Again, Paul George, we need him back ASAP. I mean, I hope these two games have shown everyone, even when Paul George is bad, he still massively helps us on both ends of the floor just with his presence. It really matters. But Kawhi, he wasn't, I criticized him in the fourth, but in the first three quarters, he was perfectly fine. He was dominant in the first. He had that 4-point play. And one of the big reasons we got off to a good start was that we got AD in with those two fouls. We drew that offensive foul on him, and we led 30-29 after one. And in the second quarter, we did a better job, I thought, taking advantage of double teams, which Kawhi and Braun were getting doubled, and we did a good job passing out of it. I think Kawhi was better about passing out of those doubles in the first half. I thought Russ did a good job of cutting when they were doubling off of him and making quick passes or scoring himself. He had that nice steal in the backcourt. That was uplifted the crowd a lot, the Clipper contingent of it. And the only bright spot I'll say to this game, Terrence Mann, another really solid performance. Doing a great job cutting, finishing at the rim, following up missed shots. I mean, doing all those little things. He had 16 points and 6 rebounds to go along with 2 assists and a steal and no turnovers on 7 for 9 shooting. Only shot 1 3, but again, when you get to the basket, get around the rim, Terrence is really good. 7 for 9 in 30 minutes. He probably could have played more. And I think what made the Clippers take a lead in the second was Harden was cooking that pick and roll. They were in that high drop. He was walking into threes. He was getting fouled. And by the way, I didn't know Cam Reddish was back. He started defending Harden better than anyone, but he was on, felt like a minutes restriction still. He only played 20 minutes, had 5 points, and he was a +5. Clippers went 9 deep with PJ Mason, Russ, and Norm off the bench. But, yeah, I liked what I was seeing from Terrence. For a second, LeBron went to the 5 in the second quarter, and he was in drop coverage, and we had Harden throw a lob to Mason. And I just thought that was comical to even try LeBron at the 5. Mason had 8 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal, but he had 2 turnovers, and they were the most crucial turnovers in the game. He was 3 for 3 from the field, 2 for 4 from the foul line in 16 minutes. I thought he was actually very solid until that moment. He had some big offensive rebounds in that early fourth quarter. But when he did that, it was just so costly that I can't even say he had a good game. The Clippers, by the way, were switching our bigs onto LeBron throughout the night, mainly with Jackson Hayes on the court because we're not worried about him posting up a smaller guy. So we were throwing Tyson Plumlee on a LeBron on the perimeter, and he wasn't even being that aggressive with it, but he was just shooting his threes, and he made them. I mean, 7 for 12 from 3 in the game for LeBron. He had 34 points, 6 rebounds, and 8 assists on 13 for 21 shooting in 37 minutes. So he was pretty spectacular. AD at 20 and 12. To go along with 2 steals and 3 blocks on 8 for 15 shooting. So their 2 stars outdid ours. And then Rui Hachimura had 17 points. D'Angelo Russell had 18 points. And Reeves had 13. So all of their starters had 13 plus points. As far as the Clippers, we outscored the Lakers 36-23 in the second. Went to the half with a 66-52 lead. And then the third quarter, we still won that one, 30-25. I thought Amir had some really good defense in that quarter, but if only we could make that three. That was mainly it. If we could make that three that put us up 20, 24, we would have been home safe, I think. But we didn't. Even when Norm made that crazy buzzer beater at the end of the third, I was like, okay, I think we're going to take this home. But we didn't. Norman Powell played 30 minutes. He had 14 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal on 6 for 15 shooting. But here's the kicker, 2 for 9 from 3. That really hurt us. Clippers shot 51% from the field, but they shot 27% from 3, 10 for 37, and 75% from the line, 12 for 16. By the way, James Harden should have had an and one goaltend in the first half with Jackson Hayes. I don't know how that wasn't a goaltend. Lakers shot 55% from the field, but they shot 39% from 3, and half of their three-pointers were made by LeBron, who was just on a heater. And I'm tempted to say this was his best game against the Clippers ever. I really think it was. It was only the second or third time in his career where I was like, man, he's scaring me right now. Because for the most part, he either always has a better team than us, or we've done a good job against him like the last decade. Since we've been good, we've done a pretty good job against him. PJ Tucker, as I said, donut in 11 minutes. The only category he registered in was turnover with 1 and rebounds with 2. Russ had 8 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, and 3 steals on 3 for 9 shooting in 17 minutes. And I already mentioned basically everybody else except for Tice, Kawhi, and Harden. So Tice, 9 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 block, 1 turnover on 4 for 10 shooting and 1 for 4 from 3. So he did shoot his threes that were open. It definitely helped space the floor a bit, but teams are going to let him shoot that. The fact that he made one, I'll take. And honestly, it's better if he starts showing us what kind of three-point shooter he really is, because those numbers are misleading, how well he's shooting from 3 this year. But still, it'll let us know what his real percentage is. And I think he should just keep letting him fly. And then until we realize, like, okay, maybe he's a below 35% guy, then we cut it down. But he definitely spreads the floor more than Mace or Zoo. And honestly, for what Tice is as a backup, I think he's very solid. I prefer him so much to Plumlee, and my point is being proven every week or every game. But it wasn't his fault to me that, like, for the most part, if Daniel Tice forces LeBron to take a semi-contested 3, that's the shot we want. Like, it is. But he was hitting everything. So the only reason why I thought Ty Lue made a mistake is because once you saw he was hitting everything and we just didn't adjust at all, it just felt like we were at LeBron's mercy. And when you don't make him uncomfortable, that's a problem because they were making us uncomfortable. James Harden, he had 23 points, 3 boards, 9 assists, but he had 4 turnovers on 8 for 16 shooting. So 50% from the field, but 2 for 9 from 3, 5 for 6 from the line. Again, so he and Norman Powell were 2 for 9 each, 4 for 18 between the two of them. Harden, if he's shooting 6 for 7 from 2, I mean, he's got to not settle for threes. And that's been one of my biggest problems with Harden throughout his career is he settles too much for threes, in my opinion. 40 minutes for him. And then Kawhi, 26 points, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists, 1 steal, just 1 turnover. But he was 11 for 19. And, I mean, he needs to shoot more. He needs 20-plus shots without Paul George. My problem is he's not demanding the ball in the fourth enough. He was actively going away from LeBron or just dribbling in place, doing nothing. 11 for 19 from the field, 3 for 6 from 3, 1 for 2 from the foul line. So he was really 11 for 18 before that final shot. And I'm going to get killed in the comments for being this harsh on Kawhi. I really don't care because nobody is above blame when you lose a game like that. You need your stars to close. LeBron outplayed Kawhi, and he's in year 21. And I think Kawhi is better than him. So you can't get that mad at me. I still think Kawhi is better than him, but he didn't outplay him. So, by the way, in terms of, is it a big deal? It kind of is a big deal that we lost because now we're in the 4th seed where we have one less loss than Denver. I'm telling you, we got to be top 3. If we're not, okay, let's play Phoenix again in the first round. Dogfight against them. If we're lucky to get out of that, we see Minnesota. We are screwed, in my opinion. And even if we somehow miraculously get by that, we're not beating Denver in the conference finals. It's top 3 or nothing for me. But the age-old proverb continues. Let me know what you thought of the game. It was a rough one. I got to go to sleep and sleep that off, and let's move on to the next game. If we can't beat the Wizards, I don't know what to say. The age-old proverb continues. Go Clippers.